So what I want to know here is this going to sound better than my current system because it's a pre-pro and there's no built-in amplification? Is it going to be stable? Is it going to have a better or worse experience? I'm sure it's going to be more customizable. Is it going to be easy to use? These are all things we're going to find out. I'm going to hook it up for the first time and try it out. Monoprice is a channel sponsor. They sent this out free for the purpose of this review, but I'm able to say whatever I want, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I do have some expectations about what I hope it's going to do. I've looked into it for a long time just because of the price at under $4,000. Right now I'm looking at it and it's $3,599. And so it was very attractive for a pre-pro. That's a processor, not an AVR. You can think about it kind of like a AVR without the amplifier section. Some people seem to think that that is going to give you a better sound because of the fact that it doesn't have amplifiers built in, and they've dedicated the electronics only to the preamp processing part of this. That's to be debated. I don't know. I am currently using an X6700H from Denon, and I am completely happy with it. The reason being, it has enough channels for what I want to use it for. Currently have a 13.1 Oro setup, also a 7.1.4 setup if I'm using it with Atmos. This has 16 channels, which lets me do some more creative stuff. I can do wides, I can do 6 height channels, and things like that. Now more of the processors and AVRs do give you that, but you know, a year or two ago, that wasn't the case. So this was kind of the only one until you stepped up to something more expensive like the Storm audio processor or the Trinovs, which are multiple times more expensive than this. So one thing to know about pre-pros is that since the amplifiers aren't built in, you will need to have external amplification for your entire system. So every speaker that you want to amplify, you will need a channel of amplification for that, and that also gets expensive. So currently I have a 7-channel amplifier, a 5-channel, as well as a 3-channel amplifier. So that gives me 15 channels of processing, and I have 3 subwoofers, which I manage using a mini DSP, so that's not really an issue. So I think that will be enough. I have external amplification in the form of some Class D amplifiers if I ever needed to get access to that 16th output. Also, this has Dirac Live. This comes with a full range version without having to pay extra. That's already part of it. And optionally, you can have Dirac Live bass control as an added license. I'm hoping that it also comes with Dirac Art very shortly. The Denon doesn't have as many features, but it is pretty much rock solid. I've heard a few things online doing some research that people have had issues with this kind of rebooting itself. And I've also seen some reviews where maybe the Synad score wasn't that great. All these things I'm going to find out for myself whether that's something that's going to make a difference. Also, one difference between this and my Denon is my Denon has pre-outs, but they are RCA. These use a balanced connection, and I'm hoping that that's going to reduce the noise because my garage situation has pretty noisy power, I would say, and I can hear a little bit more hum and noise from my speakers when nothing's playing than I would prefer. So here I am in my garage home theater, and I'm about to hook this thing up. And so you can see my current rack setup. I have the 7-channel OSD amp, 5-channel, and the 3-channel. I also have the Denon X6700H. One thing to keep in mind is that you will need XLR cables. These are from Monoprice, and these are the least expensive ones that I could find. Here is the Monolith HTP-1, and this is actually pretty light, which makes sense considering that this doesn't have amplifiers. I mean, there is some weight to it, but not as heavy as the 6700H here. And for size comparison, you can kind of see them here side by side. You can see that the X6700H protrudes about maybe 2.5 inches further than this one. For a quick comparison, the knob feel on the HTP-1 compared to the 6700H, this one is made in Japan. There's no comparison. This one has a lot more weight to it, and this is just kind of flimsy. Okay, so here's the moment of truth. Click it on. See a blue light there. All right, so this has a screen. Oh, it's a touch screen. Okay, that's cool. The touch screen on this is pretty limited. All you can really do is go to the Wi-Fi and Ethernet settings. Now you can think about this as a computer where it takes a while for it to start up and shut down, but it does have a mode called Fast Start, which allows it to start up and shut down much faster. I would say about the same speed as your typical AVR. So on the front of the screen, it shows the IP address. So I'm gonna go ahead and just type that in. Now, I did not look at any instruction manuals. I'm just trying to figure this out. And okay, cool. So it looks like just what I pretty much see on the front panel here. We'll go through some of these things very quickly. This is the main screen. Different modes is the first thing I'm looking at. Night off. So night mode, loudness, compensation. So that's good for those of you who are used to the Denon with the dynamic volume. They do have two loudness compensation modes. The vintage mode, which I believe probably follows the Fletcher-Munson curve, but that's outdated. Now it's been replaced with the equal loudness contour curve, and I think that that is the other option. You have the choice of setting the volume at which that starts to kick in, and it does it incrementally. So let's say if you set 85 dB as your reference, that will lead to a flat response. Below that, it'll increase the bass. I tried it. I didn't really like it too much because I expect the bass to go down when I turn down the volume, and it tends to make stuff sound a little bit too bloated in the bass area. Let's see, dialogue enhance. Then you have all your input selection, your upmixing selection. Very intuitive, actually. You can access your trims, delays for all the channels. You can see the speakers that are set up and a view here of all the speakers. As you may know, we made the spatial audio calibration toolkit because we weren't able to play pink noise out of all of the channels. And this looks like it has different tones that you can actually play. Sine wave, pink noise, band limited pink noise, which is handy. So a few of the other settings to make note of is you have EQ. So you have tone controls, parametric EQ. I like that. 16 bands of PEQ per speaker. That is awesome. You can relabel your HDMIs, and as far as sound enhancement, we have, let's see, up mixer. So you have access to all the stuff here. So you can turn CEC on and off, fast start. So here are all the cables. This is what it looks like behind here. And you can see all of the RCA connections coming out of the Denon X6700H. I'm going to connect the XLRs because my amplifiers do offer both options. This is the HDMI cable that goes to my projector, so that will go here into the HDMI 1 eARC. My NVIDIA Shield, I'll plug that into number 1 for right now. It does need Ethernet to work. So that's just for the setup. I believe that it does have Wi-Fi, which you can use later on, but for the initial setup, it does need to have Ethernet. Okay, just got a notification on my phone. The HTP-1 joined my network. Now, when you buy the XLR cables, make sure that you have enough length to reach all of your amplifiers. I got a 3-foot length just because all of my stuff is relatively close together, and that's all I needed. So it does have a satisfying click when you connect the XLRs. That lets you know that it's in correctly. So I'm back here at the speaker itself, and you know what? I'm not hearing anything. I'm right next to it. Here's my microphone. Could the XLR, balanced XLR, actually fix the issue that I was having? Because I can barely tell that this thing's even on. I currently use a power conditioner. I've tried various RCA cables, and nothing made the noise go away except for connecting the XLRs using the processor. So it may be something that you may want to consider if that is an issue for you. It doesn't have to be the HTP-1. It can be any other processor that has XLR outputs. They have a very cool system where you can import all the PEQs. I wasn't able to get the full import working in my testing, but maybe somebody else has been able to do that. I can do per channel, but not full EQ. It also allows you to clone the PEQs from one channel to another, and that gives you 16. That's a lot of EQ. I'm excited to see what happens in conjunction with Dirac Live, because you can use PEQs if you have them set before, then Dirac will use the already EQ'd speakers. If you clear all those out, run Dirac, then it'll take the PEQs and that will be applied after Dirac has done its own thing. So right now I'm about to run Magic Beans, and I'll just be using this little IMM6 calibrated mic just to show you that Magic Beans does work with various calibration mics. You don't have to use a UMic 1 or anything fancy. Now, the better the mic, the better the calibration. This one is actually pretty good. So right now I'm using full bandwidth pink noise here, and I do want it to be relatively loud because I want to minimize any background noise that may interfere with the calibration. So we do use a new method for the near field where we start from 0.5 meters, which is about 1.5 feet, somewhere around there, to 1 meter, so about 3 feet away. So I just finished doing all the speakers, didn't take very long. And so now I'm gonna hit next. It's gonna work on the filters here, and I'm gonna hit yes to save measurement. So it shows me the room curve, the average room curve for this room. I'm gonna go ahead and export that to the HTP-1, and we'll see what happens from there. All right, so all my filters are loaded. Now it's just time to listen. So after running Dirac, the thing that I noticed is that whatever it's doing with the phase alignment and the time alignment, it's just spot on. So I did some of the timing tests from the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit, where it's basically playing bursts from all the channels, and it just sounds like it's one single channel. So the timing is perfect, and the cohesiveness is just the best that I've heard. And that has more to do with Dirac, not so much the HTP-1. I have heard that with other AVRs that have Dirac here in this exact same system. Now, I didn't try Dirac Live Bass Control just because I use a mini DSP using multi-sub optimizer, which pretty much does the same thing, and because I plan on using all of the channels, which doesn't leave extra XLRs for my subs. Now, this has something called Dirac Live Bass Management, which is different from Dirac Live Bass Control in that it takes over the bass management part. So typically with your AVR, you set your crossovers at, let's say 80 hertz, 60 hertz for some, and maybe for your smaller speakers, you set them to 100 or 120. This does it automatically within Dirac. So I think it chooses points where the speakers cross over the best, where you're getting the most out of each speaker, as well as the sub, but I would guess that it also is choosing a point where the phase is aligned between those two speakers. I'm in the middle of watching Gran Turismo, and first of all, pretty awesome movie, but I've been really enjoying the HTP-1. The Dirac calibration with Magic Beans sounds excellent, and you know, I've been using some of these features that I don't usually use on the Denon, like the dialogue enhance. Basically, that's just turning up the center channel. And of course, that BEQ, the bass EQ on this, really brings back a lot of the bass that I guess is missing. I don't know. But I like what it's doing. So far, so good. Enjoying the movie, enjoying the listening experience as well. So here are the release notes for the firmware updates. And in this latest version, it has robust boot loop protection. Now, to be clear, I have never had any rebooting issues because I haven't even gotten a chance to mess around with this thing yet. But yeah, it's just something I heard about, and so hopefully that fixes the stability issues. So I'm taking a look at the website here. It also says that it is Rune ready. You can see the price right now, $3,599. I think that's very reasonable if it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It does have 8 HDMI UHD, 4K UHD inputs, and 2 HDMI 4K UHD outputs. For a lot of people, the HDMI 2.1 is important to them because they want the 4K 120, they want variable refresh rate, and 8K. For me, I don't game and I don't have 8K, so it's not so important to me, but just make note of that if it is to you. So here's that custom user interface by Pink Soda. Basically, you have a different look to it, that it's just easier to get to certain things here. PEQ. Oh, wow. All right. That looks a lot better than the stock one. You actually see what's happening here. This is the default one, and in order to get to things, you have to click on this gear icon and this kind of this weird side-scrolling thing where it's not very intuitive. So a lot of stuff is off to the side here. Compare that to this custom GUI. This page looks mainly the same, but everything is here on the side. So for example, if I go to calibration, there it is. Yeah, this looks a lot better. There is still some side scrolling, but not as much as the other one. So it should be noted that if you're used to seeing on-screen displays for the settings, volume, things like that, you will not get this with the HTP-1. Everything is based on app control or the remote control. That can be a pro and a con. Pro is that if I'm messing with settings while people are watching a movie, that often happens. You guys may be guilty of that same thing. Then it's not going to bother them because they're not going to see anything on the screen unless it changes the sound or something like that. The con is if you're just used to changing the settings and an on-screen menu, you just don't have that with this. I will say that having a tablet set up with all of this is kind of a game changer. Look at it's everything right here. Volume control, easy to change the inputs and change your sound modes. There's a setting here that says filtered bass. I can just apply bass EQ. I can pick the movie that I want and it'll apply the bass equalization for that particular movie. Now that took me a while to set up manually on my mini DSP. I actually used to have a computer that would need to run in order for that to work. So it was a pretty complicated setup, but this just works just immediately right here. That is amazing. So this is how it looks. So I clicked on Wonka 2023. If I click on it, it shows you the artwork. It shows you the bass EQ. So this is the normal bass where it starts to roll off below 30 hertz. And here in the solid line is where it brings the bass back up. And it kind of gives you a heat map of all the different scenes throughout the movie and where there is more bass added. So this is crazy. It shows you the PEQ that was needed right there to restore the bass. Very cool. So other good thing is I turned on CEC and my NVIDIA Shield remote does work. When it comes to ease of use, this is definitely for the more intermediate advanced user. And I think they've made it so that it is for that person. They have this feature called the VU monitoring, which you play test tones through it, play something with loud bass or something that may cause digital clipping, and it'll tell you where that occurs. And I thought that was very handy when I play the Dolby Amaze demo on the Denon. If I don't have my subs set to -6, it causes digital clipping. But it is something that you have to figure out yourself. Set the 0 dB to reference level, all these different things to get it just right, but they give you all the tools. You just have to know how to use them. I did get a chance to use the macro function, and that is awesome. Basically, what it allows you to do is any parameters that are on here, whether it's the levels or PEQ, whichever Dirac preset you have, you can set that to a specific preset here. So there are 8 here, and you can add more that you can access via the app. But I'm just amazed at how much it can record. So it's one of the additional features that somebody else made. So basically anything that you can do on the web interface, you can record that, and with a press of a button, it'll replay all of those settings pretty much instantaneously. So I changed all of the PEQ settings, so 16 bands by 12 channels, and it did it instantly. And it's very granular where I can set it so that it doesn't change the volume in the preset. It only changes, whatever I had changed in the macro. So that's a feature that I'm not used to seeing on the Denon. I did have presets on there, but it's kind of just limited to what they allow you to change. We can take a quick look at the remote here. It's very simple. Doesn't look to have any backlighting, but feels kind of like a cheap remote, to be honest. So we have user inputs here, info, ability to dim the displays, and I guess these are more quick settings, and quick access to your inputs and your sound modes. So here is the master volume. That's probably what I'll be using most, and a way to change the dialogue right here. Mute, access to Dirac, and then more presets, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're planning on using this for an Oro 3D setup, I currently have a 13.1 setup. Don't expect to be able to have direct access to a center height or voice of God, aka top surround channel. They don't have direct support for that. Let's say, for example, you have a 0.4 setup and you want the voice of God channel. It'll use all 4 speakers to make a phantom voice of God channel. If you only have two, it'll use those top middles to make the voice of God channel. What it does for center height is if you have front height speakers, it will phantom image those. So interesting. It's not a big deal to me because I felt like those channels weren't really utilized that much anyway when I had discrete actual speakers there. So it's mainly for upmixing and it's not a big deal. Something for you to know though. So another thing to note is that there is no upmixing of Atmos, so no cross mixing. Normally with a Denon or Marantz, maybe others as well, what it'll do is it'll take the Atmos signal, take the 7.1 base layer, and then upmix that to Auro 3D. This doesn't do that, so if you're using Atmos, it just plays Atmos. And that happens whether you have Auro 3D engaged or not. You could possibly change it so the source does not play Atmos content, in which case it'll revert to 7.1, and from there it'll allow you to upmix it. But that is just an extra step that I didn't have to do with my Denon. So this does have a wide synth feature. So what it does is it takes the signal that goes to the left speaker and the left surround, and it mixes it down and puts that into your left wide. It reduces that by -6 dB, so it's not overly loud. And that's what it does for the right, and also for the left and right top middles if you don't have content go into those as well. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't have the newer version of the Dolby Surround upmixer, which does that automatically, and it probably does a better job, but that's what we have for now. It's been a few days and I've gotten a chance to listen to this, watch a few movies, and I don't want to come off shilly, but I really like this thing. There's nothing else to say about it, but I've just enjoyed the sound quality and the experience of using the app instead of using the remote. And overall, I've just enjoyed it. So my takeaway from this whole experience is that the Denon is more like an appliance. It just works, it's stable. The options are limited, whereas this gives you pretty much all the tools that allow you to do whatever you want, but it requires more experience to set it up. But if you're the type who likes to go in there and tinker and understand how every single aspect of your system works and be able to control all of that, then the HTP-1 might just be right for you. So I'll leave a link to the products down below. If you like this video, check out my other videos that are related to this topic. Introducing the ultimate project for watch enthusiasts, the DIY Watch Club Expedition Kit. Imagine building your own high-quality watch, and it costs less than you think. Far less than $3,000. In fact, it's under $300. With a DIY Watch Club Expedition Kit, you're not just wearing a watch, you're wearing your craftsmanship. This isn't just any watch kit. It comes with everything you need, including video instructions that guide you step by step, ensuring your watch building journey is just as smooth as the movement inside the watch. Upgrade your experience with the optional Pro Tool Kit. They offer everything you need, like this loop to magnify every detail, ensuring precision in every step. At its heart, the Expedition Kit features a GMT Seiko movement, allowing you to track 2 time zones simultaneously. Perfect for adventurers and global citizens alike. Change its look on a whim, with an array of watch bands available on their website, and compatibility with other 20mm bands, the possibilities are endless. From the sleekness of the white strap to the elegance of an optional stainless steel bracelet, tailor it to fit your style. And when the lights go down, watch it come alive. The Expedition Kit features an incredible lume on the sandwich dial, standing out in any crowd, day or night. Ready to embark on this journey? Visit DIYWatch.club and join a community of passionate watchmakers today. And for special listeners, use the code JOEANTEL to get 5% off your order. DIY Watch Club Expedition Kit. It's more than a watch, it's an experience. Start yours today.